I'm excited to show this webinar to you. I'm just here setting up, getting ready to film, but we're going to give you all of the tools that you need in order to make a decision about the best way to upgrade to your next home. And you're going to walk away feeling super confident about the next steps to take in order to make that happen. So make sure you watch the whole thing. It's only 20 minutes, and leave any questions that you might have in the comments. Let's dig in. Hi friends, welcome to A Home in Seattle. I'm Alex Kendal.
I'm Kendal.
And
Keyes. Today we're going to cover basically three scenarios. Sell your current home, buy your next one, or buy your next one and then sell your current one, or our personal favorite, buy your next home and keep your current home. Kind of three options.
And we'll talk about the pros and cons of each. We're also going to take a little field trip and talk to our favorite lender, Julie Johnson. She is with Cross Country Mortgage here in Seattle. And we refer her to all of our clients. We've used her to purchase 4 or 5 properties at this point. And we really respect and take a lot of advice from her. We're married. We've been working together since, how long? 2021.
I jumped in 2021. You've been going a little longer.
I've been in the real estate industry since about 2018 when we bought a condo at foreclosure auction, flipped it, sold it, didn't make a ton of profit, but learned a lot. And that's when I got licensed as a realtor, and I've been helping people buy and sell homes ever since. And I really love it. We've helped over 100 people at this point, and we're in the top 10% of realtors, and we just really love this job.
We also do a little bit of real estate investing. That's something we're learning and growing in. So in addition to this is the home that we live in is here in Seattle. And we have 2 rental properties that we've been able to buy using some of the stuff we're going to talk about today as strategies. So thanks for being here. We are going to be in the chat answering questions during this webinar. So if questions come up as we're talking, put them in there and we'll answer them live. But we'll try to keep this to about 20 minutes. And I hope it's useful for you as you consider how to get into that next, maybe bigger home and what to do with your current home.
Yeah, that's the whole problem here. It's like, this is a big undertaking. A lot of people think that it takes a lot of money, which there are scenarios where it does. There are other scenarios where it doesn't. So let's get into it.
Okay. So basically, how do I buy a house if I need to sell my current house first? Yeah. Or do I need to sell my current house first? That's the bigger question.
That's the question. You might have a lot of money. When you buy your first house, you have to save for a while, and you put all of your life savings into this asset, and it just sits there. And you might think that it's hard to access that, and it's wrapped up into this hard asset that takes a long time to sell and costs a lot of money to sell. Oh, it sounds overwhelming.
I'm overwhelmed.
So the first scenario, and we've undertaken this ourselves, this is how we got out of our first house and into our forever home, is to sell the old house first and move into an Airbnb while you're house hunting and buy the next one.
So the cons of this is that it's probably the biggest hassle, right? You need to get all your stuff out of your house, sell it, put your stuff somewhere. For us, it was a storage unit. Our stuff lived in a storage unit for a few months. We had to move into an Airbnb while we were house hunting for our next house. All that. It's exactly what you think it is. We didn't have any kids at the time. It was feasible for us. I personally think it's feasible and sometimes the best option, even if you do have kids, but we totally understand. The more complicated, the more people that are in your family and your life, maybe that's just not feasible. But that's what we did. So that's the con. It's a giant hassle. The pro is that it's the cheapest option.
Which is why we undertook it. You save on all of the financing costs. You don't have to qualify for 2 mortgages at once. It frees up all of the down payment, your equity in the home. You get a wire transfer into your bank account for
hopefully hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hopefully. Depends on how much equity you have on your home. But now you have that cash to use as a down payment for your next home. You don't need to finance as much for your next home. You have cash. Cash is king, right? It's the simplest option too, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a hassle in terms of life logistics, but financially, I think it's the simplest.
Yeah, it is. Because you don't have to coordinate as much. Money just moves around in a very logical way, and it makes sense. So the next way to do this, which is a little bit more complicated, but is easier on your lifestyle, is to buy a new house, move into it, and then you can sell your empty house.
And we've had a number of clients do this. And I think a lot of people are actually surprised to find out that this is an option because, like Alex just said, you do have to qualify for 2 mortgages now. And I think a lot of people just don't think they will. And in addition to qualifying for the 2 mortgages, you have to have a down payment for your new home. And you might not have, you have to come up with that. There are other ways to come up with the down payment for your new home without selling your current home. If you haven't just saved up a couple $100,000 cash in the bank, there's an option called a home equity line of credit, or a HELOC. And this essentially allows you to use the equity of your current home to take a loan against yourself. And you could do that, use that as the down payment for your next home. We have had clients do this. Now, there's fees associated. The interest rate on that loan against yourself is going to be high. We actually have a HELOC on this current home that we're sitting in, and the rate varies. So you never lock in a rate, but it's currently, I just looked at like 10.5%, which is a lot higher than like a mortgage loan that you're going to get. But you make interest-only payments, and so it is an option to consider.
Yeah, and it's generally considered to be a temporary loan. You take out a HELOC in order to make the down payment, and then you pay that off when your prior home sells. Or a lot of people use HELOCs to do improvements on their house and then pay it off when the house sells. Or there's a lot of options out there. There's also bridge loans that you can use to that get paid off when your prior house sells. There's also the option to make a contingent offer on a new house, and this is where you go to the seller, you say, I want to buy your house, but I need to sell my house first. And contractually, you're not obligated to buy the new house until the old house sells. So, in the Seattle area, where it's generally considered to be a fairly competitive market, these are hard to get accepted because the seller has to take a little bit of risk on your ability to actually sell your old house. And so I would say that it's more successful in a down market like the wintertime or when there's more inventory available. On new construction, I've gotten this to be accepted fairly easily because there's just more new construction inventory available.
Yeah, they're basically, the seller has to have some motivation to be willing to wait for you to sell your current home. And there are lots of contractual things that kick in. There are timelines. You have to put your house on the market within a certain number of days and things like that we could help you talk through if you go this route. But it's something to be aware of, that it could be an option.
Yeah. Okay. So that's 2 different options. And the third is probably less popular, but something that we always recommend to everybody, just because holding on to real estate for as long as possible is always the best investment, in my opinion. And that's to buy a house and keep it. You move out of it into your new house, but you keep the old house as a rental property.
And I think in our personal real estate journey, this is probably our biggest regret, that we didn't do this with our first home. I wish we had done this 3 times.
Yeah, I do too.
To build our real estate rental portfolio. Because
okay, so why didn't we? I think it's good to kind of dive into some of the motivations there.
We really felt like getting into our new home, we wanted as low of an interest rate as possible and as low of a monthly payment as possible. We were just in the mindset of we were having a baby and we wanted to move into our forever home. And now with some hindsight, I'm like, even with a baby, we could have. Yeah. We didn't need to move into our forever home right then. We were young, but we thought that our next home was going to be our forever home. So we wanted the payment to be as low as possible. We wanted as much security as possible. So we decided to sell our house so that we'd have a chunk of money to put into that next one. And it wasn't a bad decision by any means.
I mean, all of those things happened. We have security. We have a low monthly payment. We love our house. But yeah, it would have been nice to start building the investment portfolio a little bit earlier.
And why is this the best way to do it? It's the best way to do it because on a primary residence, that's the lowest interest rate you're going to get, especially if you bought during COVID when rates were high 2s, 3%. We're never going to have interest rates like that again. Whereas if you just go out and you say, I want to invest in real estate, I'm going to buy a rental property, your rate's going to be higher. So you can buy a primary residence. You need to live in it for some period of time, at least a year. But at that point, you can then move on, buy a new home, keep that home as a rental property, and keep the interest rate. So it's a huge benefit. I think it's worth at least considering. We made this silly little chart, flow chart. Take yourself through some questions like, can I afford to keep 2 homes? You do have to qualify for those two.
First question.
2 mortgages. That's the biggest question. If I can afford it, would it make a good rental? That means, is it in a neighborhood that makes sense? Is it a type of home that makes sense? Is the rent that I can get for it going to cover all or most of my expenses? And do I want to be a landlord?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. A lot of people are stressed by the idea of being a landlord, and it is stressful. Like, there's people living in your house, you're responsible for them.
People damaging your house.
Yeah, there's financial obligations. So even if you don't want to be a landlord, then I think it's worth considering this option anyways, because you can always hire it out. You can get property management. We've started doing property management for a couple clients, and I really enjoy it. I think it's fun to take care of somebody's house, and if you can afford to hire it out, then it makes this very feasible. And
it doesn't mean you can just completely walk away. You need to manage your property manager. But anyways, these are all questions that we can definitely talk through with you if you are just toying with the idea of maybe keeping your current home and starting a little real estate portfolio. Probably the first place you need to start with any of these options is talking to a lender. So we took a little field trip earlier to talk with Julie Johnson at Cross Country Mortgage. So let's cut over to her. We're still here to answer your questions in the chat, but this will be really helpful for you to just hear a little bit from Julie. What do the finances look like behind these options? We made it down to Westlake. We're here to talk to Julie Johnson with Cross Country Mortgage. We met Julie before we were in real estate when we were buying our first house because our agent recommended her. And it's been a great experience. Once we got into real estate, we started referring her to all of our clients. I think she's done probably 4 loans for us now, plus a refinance, plus a HELOC personally. And she's worked with a ton of our clients as well. So we're going to get our questions answered about what the financing looks like when you want to buy a new home, but keep your current home.
So I've been in the Seattle area as a mortgage lender for over 25 years, so Seattle and Greater Seattle. And I have an awesome team here as well. And we get to work with wonderful people like Alex and Kendal. And when they said that they were going to get in the business, I was like, wow, that's perfect, because they were perfect clients, by the way. And so it's just, I feel like it's come full circle.
So I think a lot of people maybe don't even realize that it could be possible for them to, depending on their financial situation, to get into their next maybe bigger upgrade home and not have to sell the house that they're living in. So you have to qualify financially to do that. What are lenders looking for when they're determining if someone qualifies to buy that next home and keep the current one?
That is such a common question right now. And what we are looking for is basically, will they qualify with both house payments to do the traditional type of mortgage lending? But we also have great products that if they don't qualify, with both house payments, then we can offset that other payment so they do qualify. So the best thing to do is to go through the application process, because there's so many different reasons, that they could qualify for both payments. But then there's also ways that, we can offset that other payment with the expanded programs that we have. And also if, like, for instance, this morning I spoke with a client and they were actually going to keep their home and rent out their home. So they're going to provide us with a lease agreement, and that would offset that payment, making them able to qualify for the new property. So we have to look at all the income. We have to get the whole picture and the story of what they want to achieve.
Does that home need to be rented out at like done deal, contract signed, in order for that rental income to count?
It depends. So if, my first objective is to see if they qualify without even renting it, then it's no problem. We don't even have to worry about a rental agreement. But if they do need that rental income to qualify, then we need to be provided a lease agreement before the close date of the new property.
Okay, great. And so say someone does qualify to hold the two properties, how will that affect their interest rate on the new property? Would it be higher than if they went ahead and sold their current home?
No, it would not be higher. If they qualify for both properties, it has no bearing on the interest rate. They are totally fine. But we have a product where if they don't qualify with both house payments, then we put our clients into that product. And then that interest rate is a little bit higher. And when I say a little bit, I'm talking about like 0.25%. So if the normal rate is 6.875, then the newer rate is going to be 7.125.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a little bit of a nudge there.
Not too bad. Okay, so you mentioned a little bit about some of these products. Is there anything you want to kind of expand on? Like what loan products are out there for people who maybe want to go ahead and keep that current home?
Yeah, and another big question that people ask me is, how do I get the down payment for the new property? Because all of their, right now, so many people have equity in their home, right? But they can't access it. So there's a couple ways to access that equity in order to buy another property, to have that down payment for the new property. One way is a home equity line of credit, which kind of like acts like a credit card attached to their current home. And they can draw upon it, and they actually only have monthly payments with the amount of money that they draw out. So let's just say that the line of credit is $200,000, but they only draw out $100,000. They're not paying on the entire $200,000, just the $100,000. And then the other option is a bridge loan, which is great. A bridge loan basically is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bridge that brings the down payment from the current home to the new home. Now, they do have to qualify for that payment, but our bridge loan is up to $700,000, and we help families with this every month. It is really, really amazing. Now, once they sell their old property, then that bridge loan is paid off. So that bridge loan is going to be tied to their old property. They sell the property, and then it's paid off.
So in other words, with a bridge loan, it's with the understanding that you are selling.
Yes, your intent is, I'm going to sell the property.
Great.
And actually, when the other caveat to that is, when they're purchasing their new property, they have to provide us with a listing agreement showing that they're going to list the property. It doesn't have to be listed, but we have to see the listing agreement.
Okay, great. It's interesting. It's great to hear about just some of these new ideas, like the fact that you could apply your future rental income to help you qualify, and some of these products like bridge loans and HELOCs. I think that'll be really helpful for people to hear about. So thank you. That was really helpful. I hope it was helpful for the people listening, and your information will be below.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
So you might be wondering, what are your next steps? And I think the most important thing is to assemble a team. And that's a realtor, a lender, a home inspector. There's a ton of people involved in this whole process. And ideally, your real estate agent is going to provide recommendations or access to most of those people. And we have this very extensive list of vetted vendors, home maintenance professionals, electricians, title and escrow people. So we recommend all of these people to all of our clients. So what you should do right now is schedule a housing consult. The link to that is down in the description below, and meet with me on Zoom or in my office in Fremont. I'll make you a cup of coffee, usually like 30 minutes to an hour, and we talk about all of your hopes, dreams, aspirations, everything that you're looking for in a home, and come up with a strategy in order to get you there.
Yep, and right about that same time, you're going to want to talk to Julie in person. She can give you your numbers, and she can help you understand your numbers. You can bring those numbers back to us. We'll help you understand them too. You really can't move forward with any decision making until you have spoken with a lender to really understand what your financial capabilities are. And so that's going to be a really important step, and it'll help you move forward feeling really confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching our class here. And if you're thinking about making a home in Seattle, send us a message. Let's work together. Bye.